Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. Today marks episode 220, and every fifth episode I normally share clips and an encounter story. Unfortunately, it takes a bit of time for me to put one of those videos together, and I'm working on a backyard project, so I'm just going to share some encounter stories today so that I can get back outside and continue my project. I hope you all don't mind. If you've been enjoying my content, why not take a quick second to hit that subscribe button? By subscribing, you'll never miss out on the latest episode, and you'll be joining a community of like-minded individuals who share your interests. Let's keep the journey going together. Thanks for your support. If you have an encounter story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with like-minded people. Now sit back and relax as we begin with today's episode. This first one takes place in July 2005. We're going to be heading to Freestone County, Texas, and the nearest town is Oakwood. My wife and I had just laid down for bed and were watching the news when we heard what we thought was our neighbors right outside our bedroom window. Closer than normal and very loud. A few minutes later we hear it again, but neither of us knew exactly what it was other than close. Getting dressed to go outside to check, we hear it a third time. I took the spotlight out and the outside dogs nearly knocked me down trying to get into the house. It is eerily quiet and very hot and humid. I shined a light around to see the neighbor's cow all huddled at his barn, some 1,300 feet away. No dust hung in the air, and they were making no sound or movement. I looked around for the bull or any sign that he had been down by the house and could find none. There was no dust in the air to suggest that they had just run to the barn in those few minutes it took me to get outside. So I concluded he had never been by the house. My cows were also huddled far away from the house and not moving. I didn't linger long outside, but the next day revealed no clues either, since everything seemed back to normal. This is twice we have heard this sound by the house, and the animals react the same way in the 10 years we have lived here. Before moving up here, I heard the same noise filling a deer feeder late one weekend that made the hair on my neck stand on end. All the neighbors and I have talked about the supposed panther that roams this area that could have contributed to the noise heard the first time, but this one was definitely different. This is the third occurrence since we've moved here in 1995. I can't recall the exact dates of the first two, other than the circumstances and reaction of the pets and animals were exactly the same. The second encounter story takes place on July 2005. Funny enough, that happens to be the same date as the first encounter story. However, this one takes place in Lincoln County, Oklahoma, near Deep Fork River. I had just gotten off of work, approximately 60 miles away, and had been driving home. I saw something, but I'm not saying it was a Bigfoot, but it was large, bending over, its back facing me. It looked like it was picking something up off of the highway that runs over the bridge. It was pretty different than what I had imagined it would look like, though. It was really tall, even bending over the way it was. It had long, straight brown hair, like a dog or something. I always pictured them to have black hair, but this one was brown. There were things hanging in the hair, sticks, undergrowth, stuff like that. It was really dirty. The only other thing I really remember is the smell as I drove by. It was awful. I was driving my convertible with the top down, and the smell of whatever that was, well, I can't even describe how bad it was. That's really all I saw. I was driving home about 60 miles an hour after I saw whatever that was. I sort of got the creeps and sped home and ran in to tell my husband what had happened. I didn't even put the top back up on my convertible. The bridge that I saw whatever that was on is only about a quarter of a mile from the house. So needless to say, I'm not really happy about coming home from work after dark anymore. Also, I know this sounds weird, but about a week and a half before the sighting, we kept hearing the strangest scream. That's the best way to describe the noise. And it was not one of our calves or any of our livestock. And after about 2 days of hearing this noise, it finally stopped. The next day we found a little baby goat with an umbilical cord still attached and dragging the ground all along. No mother goat can be found anywhere. We found him all alone in a wooded area back behind our house. When we found him, he was terrified. He didn't make a noise or anything. It took us hours to catch him. He finally bleats, cries now, and it sounds nothing like the noise we heard before we found him. We've also lost 4 baby kittens in the last month. They seem to just disappear. We do live way out in the country though. It's possible that anything could have carried them off and had them for dinner, but I feel like it's worth mentioning. This last one takes place in the summer of 1975. We're going to be heading to Sarpy County, Nebraska, and the nearest town is Bellevue. The following occurs in 1975 when I was 14 years old. My family lived in Bellevue, Nebraska, near Offutt Air Force Base, where my father had recently retired from the U.S. Air Force after 24 years of active duty. I now live in Florida. Actually, this incident was a series of 3 encounters over a 3-day period. A bit of background seems necessary. My girlfriend lived on the next block. Our houses were separated by a field with a stand of trees on the north side of the field. The stand of trees was approximately 20 feet wide at that time and ran east-west. The stand of trees ran to the east to Bellevue Boulevard. On the east side of Bellevue Boulevard was a heavily forested area that was either a part of or bordered Fontanelle Forest. I would go over to my girlfriend's house and visit until it was time for me to go back home. My curfew was 10 p.m. during the summer. The first incident occurred as I was crossing the field on my way back home around 10 p.m. I was walking in a northwest direction with a thick stand of trees to my right. I heard heavy footfalls and occasionally snapping of branches within the stand of trees. Whatever it was within the trees was paralleling me. When I stopped, it stopped. When I began walking again, it began walking. It was very dark in the field and I could not see anything. After several stops and starts, I became somewhat frightened and ran the rest of the way across the field. I climbed over a 4-foot chain-link fence that surrounded our backyard and ran up our backyard. It was basically a hill and into the house. The second incident happened the very next night. This occurrence happened exactly the same way as the first incident. The final incident happened on the third night. As I crossed the field, I again heard the heavy footfalls and snapping of small branches within the stand of trees. However, this time I was not being paralleled. The thing was heading in a southwest direction, which placed it on an intercept course to my northwest direction of travel. I could hear it getting closer, but I could not see anything because of the extreme darkness. Near the point of interception, I began to smell a foul odor. The odor was very strong and almost made me gag. By now the footfalls were very near. I could feel the thing cross in front of me very close, but I could not see anything. The footfalls were now on my left. At this point, I became extremely scared and began running across the field. I'm not sure, but I suspect I cleared our 4-foot fence without even touching it. About halfway up the hill, our backyard, I stopped. I can't explain why I did this, but I simply felt compelled to do so. I turned around and saw what had crossed my path. The backyard and portion of the field was nicely illuminated by a floodlight my father had put on the back of the house. Standing at the edge of the field next to a clothesline pole was a creature on 2 legs. It was covered in dark brown hair. I estimate the height at 7 feet. This is based on the fact that the clothesline pole was 6 feet in height and the creature's head was a good foot above the top of the pole. I was approximately 40 to 50 feet away from it, but I could not make out any facial features. I recalled that there was eye shine, but I can't recall the color, possibly reddish. The thing was extremely thick across the chest. The arms hung almost to its knees. This thing was very muscular. We stood there staring at each other for approximately 20 seconds before I turned and ran into my house. I chickened out before it did. There is no question in my mind that what I saw was a Bigfoot. Wow, that last encounter made me feel like the being wanted her to see it, almost like it was reassuring her that I'm here and you're safe. I never got the impression that it was trying to scare her, but then again, that's just me. I hope you all enjoyed these encounter stories today. Now, let's acknowledge our current OC members. I would like to thank Elizabeth, Jim, Diana, and Teresa. Thank you guys so very much for your support. It's truly appreciated. If you wish to learn more about our OC membership program, you can check out the membership video to get a detailed description of all the perks you will receive. Don't miss out on the adventure. Become a member now and join us today. If these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your encounters to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story on this channel. Thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit the like button on your way out and smash the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Have a great weekend and we'll see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.